Tyson, why don't we just dive into the college football playoff right now? Committee comes out. What an awful show, by the way. Why did it take so long? I mean, it was crazy. Was it like 3 hours? I couldn't believe
Commercials.
it. I'm following along. I'm on the bachelor party. I can't watch. So, thankfully, I'm just following on, scrolling on my phone. I'm like, can somebody freaking put this thing out there and let us see the bracket? But eventually comes out. What do you think when that happened?
Well, I was at the gym. I was like, okay, I'll do like 30 minutes on the bike. By the time I'm done with this, it'll be out. I get on. It's just like Joe Klatt being mad about something. And then somebody else is over here arguing. I try to check the internet. They haven't released anything yet. Thankfully, I think for college football fans' sanity, Kalen DeBoer and the Alabama Crimson Tide were left off of this college football playoff bracket. Thank God SMU closed that game the way they did, because if they didn't make that thing close, Alabama was getting in here, I think, 100%. On the actual bracket itself, Brad, these are the 12 teams who deserve to be in the college football playoff. You have your 4 AQs, that get the bye here. Really, there's more than 4 AQs. You get the 4 guys that get the bye. That's kind of what we expected, especially after Arizona State looked the way that they did in that Big 12. Really, the last month, they felt like a team that deserves maybe a bye, but. These matchups in the first round, if you're a lifetime college football fan, how long have you wanted to watch Ohio State play Tennessee? And how long have you, you've been waiting? If you're an Indiana person, you've been waiting since like the 70s, since they canceled this matchup between Indiana and Notre Dame back. So I'm juiced for the first round here.
Yeah, me too. I know Joel Klatt and some other people are pissed. So let's kind of dive into some of the gripes on the seeds. I mean, Oregon, they kind of did get a little screwed with that 1 seed, because you got to play either Ohio State or Tennessee. But you also get the bye. I mean, that's nice. You've been playing football for a long time. These kids need a break, I'm sure. Penn State, definitely a favorable draw. I don't think anybody would say otherwise. You get to play SMU, then you get to play Boise State. You'll take that. Anybody will. You were telling me you like where Arizona State is if you look at them. I mean, Clemson, saw them get exposed at certain times. Texas, I mean, is anybody super scared of Texas anymore? I'm not quite sure. And then let's go down to Georgia. They got a question mark with Carson Beck. Notre Dame looks like they're good, but their defense, we thought was a juggernaut. At least certain people did. I did included. Was exposed by USC. Can Indiana do the same thing? Can Indiana do that to Georgia? So really, people are up in arms about certain things. We have no idea how this is going to play out. And this is the first iteration, so we got to see how this works before we go crazy, in my opinion. But did you have like an overt issue with anything like Klatt or some of the other analysts did?
No, dude, I watched the games. Like, what are you mad about? This is exactly what was supposed to happen. This is the way it was supposed to be set up. Sure, you can get more engagement by kind of farming, rage bait online and, Alabama should have been in, or I can't believe Ohio State's all the way down at 8. All they did was lose to Oregon and Michigan's a tough, blah, 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 blah. They lost at the end of the season. That's the way it should be. Tennessee didn't look great. They deserve the number 9. Texas at 5 makes sense. They were the number 2 team in the country before losing in overtime in the SEC championship against a little bit more experienced team. Penn State got an awesome draw. You're absolutely correct about that. But they're the 6th best team in the country the way that this thing works. And that's the way the chips fell. This feels to me, Brad, like when you get to the West bracket in the NCAA basketball tournament, we're in Q1 right now and we're going through who's live, who's not, what does the 1 seed look like, who can really come out of this thing. This is why we wanted more teams. This is what we got. Here, sure, yeah, Oregon could have had a nicer draw as a number 1 team in the country. If they're the number 1 team in the country, they should beat everybody else anyways. Save it.
We're sports fans. I think a lot of football people are broad sports fans too. But college football, there's so much going on. You got to stay with the portal. Got to stay with the coaching changes. We flip over to college basketball, and we see it every single year in the tournament. The 1 seed. Woo, yeah. So here's your bye, right? You get to play the 16, right? That's what these bye weeks are. They're the 1 seed. They just skip the 1. You basically win that. Well, you know who's red hot coming in? Oh, it's the 8 seed, right? The 1 versus 8, 1 versus 9. Sometimes the 1 seeds lose, right? Like, what happens if Clemson beats Arizona State? Are people going to be pissed about Arizona State's draw? Absolutely not. Oregon, let's be honest. Oregon beat Ohio State, and that was at home. So I think you have a little bit of a gripe if you got to rematch them. But I think Oregon's better than Tennessee. Was anybody blown away by anything that Tennessee did? I think Oregon would love to play Tennessee based on that matchup. So I think they got a bad draw. Okay, so what? You want to put Oregon where Boise State is or where Georgia is? You just want to flip that bracket? Maybe that's the case. We put Arizona State to 4. I don't know. Like reseed all this other crap. Let's just get through this one since this is our first iteration, and then we'll go from there. I don't think there needs to be sweeping changes. I'm with you. It was kind of crazy.
Yeah, and just like quickly, I guess on these these teams from the first round, who do you like the best here to make a run from the teams that did not get a bye?
Penn State, I think. I mean, just one's the easiest draw, I think. But when you look at what they did against Oregon, is anybody more confident in their offense now? And people had question marks about if they could do something like that. And they did that against Oregon, who's been good at times. So I think it's definitely Penn State. I think you're obviously a little bit nervous anytime you face Ash and Gentry on the ground, but that's going to be in the dome. We'll if you get there. Other than Penn State, because I think that's kind of everybody's answer. Man, I don't know if Indiana can compete, but that offense really can play with anybody. I'm not sold on Georgia. Tyson, it's got to be Texas to me. I mean, I'm not a huge believer in them, but I think they could beat Clemson, and there still are some question marks I have with Arizona State. Huge talent discrepancy. So I could see Texas getting to the Final Four for sure.
Yeah, I think Texas has the kind of unfortunate draw here of like a coach has been around the block a million times in Dabo that knows how to win some of these high leverage games. And the fun part about this, Brad, is like it's not like Clemson is on a 10-game winning streak coming in. They lost 2 weeks ago. And they won the ACC championship. So Texas losing in the SEC championship game, it's not like they're cold versus the hottest team in the country. So I agree. I think the winner of that's going to get favored on the money line in Vegas against Arizona State. I wouldn't sleep on Arizona State if I was the rest of the country right now. This is a team we talk about, the Dane Campbell quote, biting kneecaps. This is a team that they didn't ask for respect from anybody. They just took it. And it took like 11 weeks of the regular season for everybody to kind of wake up and be like, oh, Kenny Dillingham's got this thing cooking down here because 𝐃𝐨𝐬𝐵 was hurt a little bit. And it was like the offense, is leaving a little bit to be desired right now. They killed everybody to end the season in the Big 12. So I don't know if Sarkisian or Dabo is super excited about seeing those guys here in the second round.
I agree, especially if you get a little healthier, right? Sam Levitt missed some time. 𝐃𝐨𝐵 gets banged up. So, I say Texas to make the run. They have the most talent out of that side. So, that's kind of what I'm looking at here. So with the Penn State side of things, and then Georgia should, but you're talking about non-bye teams. I mean, God, Notre Dame, you would think would be able to compete with Georgia, but we've seen that story before.
I want to
right?
see them compete with Indiana first. I think that's
exactly.
a scary game if you're a Golden Domer.
Yeah. All right, let's go through this. I mean, we got a ton of time to talk about these things. The first game is December 20th, and that's Indiana versus Notre Dame. But let's just go through some early round game thoughts and just kind of go through these front four. Let's start with Indiana Notre Dame. We'll do an in-depth breakdown, yada, yada. That'll be coming up later. We'll tell you, stay subscribed, all that good stuff. When you're just picturing this matchup, it's going to be played in South Bend. It's going to be super cold. We know that. Curtis Rourke, yada, yada. Indiana's going to have a chip on their shoulder. A lot of those kids, a lot of them from James Madison, but, the guys from Indiana and State, Notre Dame were good enough to play at Notre Dame. So Kirk Cignetti's going to play that up, right? Sounds like you think not only can Indiana win, but you think they might pull it off. I don't know. I don't want to put words in your mouth, but what are you doing in this?
I do right now. I mean, and my thoughts could change. We're going to do another show. Like Brad mentioned, we got about 9 days before kick there. So next week we'll have a show kind of going in depth, doing what we've done throughout the whole season, having the numbers for you guys. And I'm totally open to change. But my gut tells me that in these, because I live in Montana. I watch the FCS pretty religiously, and I watch the FCS playoffs all the way through. Coaching matters a ton in these playoffs, and Kirk Cignetti knows that better than just about everybody else in this field when it comes to formats like this. You essentially get 2 weeks here. We're not anti-Marcus Freeman guys. I think he closed the season really, really well, and they've answered every test that they've had here for the last couple months. Curtis Rourke is really good, and I don't know how much the rest of the country, like the Ohio State thing happened, and then it was kind of like, well, that was fun for Indiana, but the season's over. And I don't agree. I think that Notre Dame can absolutely run the football with the best teams in the country. Indiana's defense is pretty good, and I think that they're going to walk in there with a coaching advantage that is not insignificant in this thing, and that's huge. That's the same reason, that North Dakota State won a ton of titles, and now South Dakota State's winning a ton of titles. It's because they had better coaches than everybody else. Yes, they had better players, but the gap in coaching was huge, and I think that's something that you cannot sleep on in a format like this.
I'm scared of this, Tyson, and I'm just remembering this because I saw my brother posted on one of his social media stories. Indiana's offensive coordinator, Tino Sinceri, is being hired as the OC at UCLA.
Mm-hmm.
That's not small here. Now, I'm trying to find this. What I was looking up here, so I apologize. It seems like I was not paying attention, but I was listening. I'm not seeing if he's coaching in this game or not. I'm not seeing if he's leaving Indiana. Now, to me, for my personal side, we'll get into the Penn State game. Andy Kotelnicki decided not to take the head coaching job at West Virginia because he wanted to finish out coaching at Penn State on this run. So I'm not seeing if he's still in here or not. Now, again, that's something that we can find we get later on, but that's something I'm definitely paying attention to because this offense has been awesome. And if you're not going to have the architect, the guy calling the plays, I'm scared about that.
Well, it's 6-1. Yes, it's impossible with a guy who has a foot out the door, to project kind of how that's going to go. If he stays, what is that like in the locker room? The architect of this Indiana program and this Indiana offense is still the head football coach of the team. So I'm expecting that to be mitigated a little bit. Brad, this is the potential for so much animosity here between these two teams. I think we have a chance for there's going to be fistfights in this one.
For my gut feeling, and again, like you said, we have the right to change here. I think Notre Dame is going to win at home. I like this defense, a really good running team.
They're fast.
We'll see, though, and they are. Okay, next game is my game. That's at 12 p.m. This is on December 21st, 12 p.m. Eastern, I should say. How about TNT and Max getting involved in this? So Penn State hosts SMU. There's already some shenanigans going on with the ticket sales and college football playoff. Students aren't getting the allotted amount of tickets. Leave it up to the NCAA and this event to scum everything and screw it all up. It's supposed to be a fun game. Have it on college campuses. Oh, can't get that right. But I was telling you before we hopped on here, this is one of those games that Penn State should win, but Kevin Jennings is going to do something magical, or they're just going to hang around. All of a sudden, it's like a little NCAA tournament game, right? Like the little guy just hangs around enough, gets hot at the end, hits enough shots. Next thing you know, there's an upset. Now, this is different, right? Because it's a Penn State, and it's an environment SMU will never play in, hasn't experienced. They're coming up from Dallas. It's going to be freezing in State College. So that's something to keep in mind. A lot of Southern guys going up to old Pennsylvania for the first time. I don't think that's going to be very good on their bodies. I'll throw this to you because, again, this is my team, so I'll kind of close with this. What's your read on this? I'm curious where your thoughts are.
We have spent the last 4 or 5 years trying to talk ourselves into Penn State's going to win the big game against Ohio State. They're going to beat Michigan. This is the year the offense takes off. Not once have I been more encouraged than I was in a loss to Oregon. It looked like a team. It looked like Andy Kotelnicki was like, oh, I'm allowed to call, some of these big shot plays here in games that we have to have. And Oregon spreads you out on offense in a way that nobody else in this college football playoff field is going to. Tennessee will try, but they don't have Dylan Gabriel. They don't have, some of these weapons that Oregon has. So that was a nice little tune-up, I think. And, yes, they lost the game. They lost the number one team in the country. It was competitive. It was close. SMU was awesome. SMU just got their test against the big boy in Clemson and failed. Clemson is not Penn State. I think that this SMU defense might have been a little bit overrated, probably by us, because Phil Moffitt's on the sidelines and Clemson's still doing mostly what they want through that first half. Cade Klubnik wasn't great in that football game. I think Drew Aller gets to have his coming out party. Everybody's searching for, hey, who's going to be the quarterback, in these upcoming NFL draft classes, because we're waiting for Arch and we're waiting for Arch. I think Aller has a chance to throw his name in the hat or in the ring here and say, hey, I'm the guy that you guys should be tanking for. I think he has a chance to have a massive coming out party in front of the home fans.
I love that. I'm curious to see how this offense looks in the cold. I think they're going to want to be physical. I think it's going to be a K-Tron Allen game early. Let's get the big body in there and start
K-Tron,
hitting
these
Southern guys. Get the big body boys just leaning on everybody and saying, hey, can you match this physicality? And Nick Singleton will run past you. I don't think the passing attack's going to look as good in the old nice dome up there in Indianapolis is going to be in this 20-degree weather in State College. But I think that hurts SMU as well. But Penn State, they got some answers they have to do on defense, man. That was ugly. But like you said, I don't think SMU is going to be able to spread them out as much as Oregon did. So that should help them kind of get back to like more of a phone booth box type of fight that Tom Allen wants to play in. I think Penn State wins this football game. It's going to be funny how, this is the first round of the college football playoff. This isn't a big game, apparently, because, James Franklin doesn't – the only games that James Franklin plays in that are big are the ones that he loses. None of the other games are big games. It's just the ones that he loses that people call him out for. And they have to be at home. Exactly.
This one's at home, so it's almost big, but SMU's not quite top 5, so it doesn't count.
Right. Exactly. You got to lean? You got to lean on that one? It sounds like Penn State.
Yeah, I think Penn State's live to be a semifinalist at least.
All right, I think I'm going to have to pick SMU then because we can't go into the jinx on this one. All right, let's move on to right. Let's move on to Clemson, Texas. Just some early thoughts there. We kind of touched on this already.
I'm over both these teams, dude. You don't even need to do the intro. I don't even want like I'm gonna watch the game. I am going to hate watch this football game. I'm done watching Clemson this season. I'm done watching Texas this season. I've seen this movie over and over and over again. Texas has played the same football game 13 weeks in a row. This was they went and they beat Michigan. This is a different season. Quinn Ewers can do this. And once they bring Arch Manning in, they just played the same game against Georgia again. They had 2 months to train up, and it wasn't 30-15. Brad, did they get out physical? Yes. Were they able to stop the run? No. That's what do we thought? The pass defense is crazy good. So I'm done.
I love that because I was going to say pretty much the same thing. I was going to be a little bit nicer just in my lead in. These are the two most Jekyll and Hyde teams, right? Like we have no clue what we're getting on a week-to-week basis. It sucks. And you kind of say like, Texas plays the same game like they do, but like sometimes it all clicks and it looks so good, and sometimes it's like, it was just right there.
Against Louisiana Monroe,
right? And that's the same thing with Clemson, right? It looks great against so and so, so we won't dive in. Tyson's frustrated with it already. We'll save it for next week when we got to. I think Texas does.
Me too. I want Clemson to win because I genuinely think it would be hilarious if Dabo gets a 3-loss team and wins a national championship, but I think they might lose.
Tennessee, Ohio State. Tennessee got to go into the shoe. It's going to be a night game on 8 p.m. Ohio State is celebrating. They broke the shackles of the 12 p.m. noon kickoffs. How happy are they? This one is an interesting matchup to me. Tennessee can run the football. Ohio State's been susceptible to that. That's what killed them against Michigan. Will Howard's going to have to be really good in this one. Tennessee's got a really good defense. That front could potentially eat against Ohio State. This one to me is right for Tennessee upset. And I'll tell you what, if they beat Ohio State, Tyson, Ryan Day, there is a good chance that he might be gone.
If he loses 2 games in a row at home in games that like you have to have essentially here, it's going to be tough. I mean, the poor guy has just really been going through it. I'm not a Ryan Day fan, but whatever. Tennessee is a SEC team that might be built to play in the North. And that's the thing I'm probably most excited to watch. We've been waiting for the Nico coming out party. And when's he going to have the 350-yard, 4-touchdown game where he looks awesome and Heupel has this thing just cooking on offense and they look like Hendon Hooker is the quarterback, but all of a sudden they have the 2020 Georgia defense, backing them. That's not who this team is. This team is just like if you squinted really hard, you might think they're maize and blue, and that's the way they want to play. I think this is a nightmare for Ohio State here. I'm seeing a lot of people that are Oregon has to play Ohio State in the second round, and that's not fair. I don't know if Oregon's playing Ohio State in the second round.
When this first came out, or when people were like, "Who do you think's going to win the national championship?" I was like, probably Ohio State. I see this draw, and I'm like, "Woo, Tennessee!"
This is the Purdue.
I'm with you.
This is the Purdue. Every time they get a 1 seed, and you look over and you're like, the UConn's the 8 in that side. That sucks.
This is scary hours to think if you're Ohio State. Now, Will Howard can go out and throw around on this defense, right? Like the secondary's gotten a little torched up in the past, but this front is no joke if you're Tennessee. And the way Ohio State was hurt, and they have problems on the offensive line, there could be major issues for this team going forward.
Hey, Brad, how many players from Ohio State got suspended for trying to start fights after they lost a football game?
Wouldn't that be 0?
Oh, that's crazy. But if you're a fan of, insanity, I encourage you to tune in and watch Chip Kelly run a draw 24 times in a row when their wide receivers are eating.
Oh, that was certainly an
I
interesting
think Tennessee
thing.
wins the game.
That's where I'm leaning right now. I'm with you on that side too. It's gonna be tough playing the shoe, but I agree. This isn't like, oh, we're gonna spread it out and we're gonna have some fun and throw the rock around Tennessee. It's like, no, we're gonna line up and we're gonna run it. We got like dudes in the trenches now.
This also isn't Minnesota coming into the shoe. This is a team that's been around all the other toughest environments in the country. They're not intimidated walking into a 100,000 person stadium.
All right. Well, that's kind of all I got right now. Like Tyson said, we'll dive into the numbers. We got a little bit of time on this. We're going to do other bowl previews and all that good stuff. Any final thoughts you want to give before we get out of here?
That I'm grateful that it's not 4 because that conversation would have been really tough after the way the last week ended. It's like, is Arizona State going to get in? Is Boise State, like, what's this whole thing going to look like? I'm really glad that some of these programs get represented. It's been an awesome year for SMU. It's been an awesome year for Indiana. It's been an awesome year for Boise State and Arizona State. So it's nice to see them get some representation here. And I think that everybody that's kind of checking them off the list as you do your brackets is making a pretty massive mistake. If college football has taught us anything and college tournaments have taught us anything, the underdog is always live. I don't care what the spread says.
And speaking of spread, Tyson, I love that soliloquy. I agree with you wholeheartedly. I'm excited that this is 12. We the old curmudgeons getting mad at, the BCS is gone. Wow, the 14 playoffs gone. Can you just embrace new? This was fun the entire year because we had something to talk about. We don't have to get pissed. I mean, Alabama's crying a river. Don't lose the 6-6 football teams, and you'll be in this thing. Are you kidding me? That's my rant. You were talking about spreads. Where can they find some of our betting stuff that we'll touch on?
It'll be in the Discord app. Link is in the bio. Group name is I Said What I Said. Tons of different stuff in there. NFL, college football, college basketball, NBA, NHL, whatever you can think of. We've got it in there. Go ahead. Let us know what you're playing. Let us know who you think is going to win the college football playoff committee. If you think SMU rolls Penn State, or if you think Ohio State shows up and says, actually, we are the best team in the country. We just had an off week a couple games ago. All of that stuff is possible. Go ahead and let us know what you think. Tail us, fade us, doesn't matter. We just want to know what you're playing.
And like, subscribe, and share the show. Smash the like button on the way out if you're watching on YouTube. Stay subscribed because, like I said, bowl content, it's pretty hit or miss, right? It's spotty, and we'll try to do a good job of covering everything. There'll be some bowls we might miss, especially with these playoff games. So forgive us for that, but we'll try to give you like a good menu to choose from with all the coverage. Share the show, whether it's with a friend, whether it's with an enemy, whether it's your grandma, your grandpa, I don't know, whoever you're sharing it with. We do appreciate the support. Appreciate everything you guys do as we have had a great football season with everybody. We'll be back later in the week. I'm not going to be out of town. I'm not going to be doing whatever. We're not going to have holidays. We'll try to pick some winners in the NFL. We'll try to get back. Tyson been red hot. I hope it didn't hit him with the cooler. And so we'll be back later in the week for that. Hope you guys join us then. We'll talk to you then. Peace.